Hey everybody, we've got that Model 41 torn down, as you remember if you watched yesterday's video. Today we are working on the front end, tearing that apart. And you can see I've got a bunch of differentials on this set of horses here. The two black ones, the one I tore down yesterday and this one here, go together. And this one and that other 25 over there go together. And when you open up a rear end, and it's just completely black like that, that's a good sign. Nobody's been in there, nobody's drained out the original lube. And the original lube wasn't as good as the lubes we have today if you use the correct ones. But that's a good sign. Nobody's been in there. I feel good about that one. I took the axles out yesterday, but they were a little scuffed up. And I'm sure the bearings are, but nobody's been in that one and screwed things up. And today I'm working on this front end from the CJ2A. We have a tremendous amount of slop in the pinion. Ever so slightly it's moving up and down, and when you turn it, it feels kind of notchy. Not good. Knuckles are just flopping around. They're just falling under their own weight. But I'm getting started on this one. And this particular front end is getting a set of freewheeling hubs on it. And I didn't think that was such a big deal, but I've seen so many people mess that up. And a lot of people just don't understand the correct way to put the hubs on and what's involved. This side right here is original 2A style. It has a drive flange right here. It's got shims behind there. It's got a nut and a cotter pin, and you set your U-joint distance with that. And then if you go and put a set of hubs on, so many guys just cut those threads off, and then they have U-joint problems. So that's on one side of this. And on the other side, if I can get you in here, you can see that's just slopping in and out like that. I think you can see that. That's not good. So I don't know what's in this for axles. I'm going to open it up and be surprised and see what's in there. And I don't have the hubs, and I won't be putting this back together today. But if you need some information on how to correctly install freewheeling hubs, putting a set of worn hubs on here, but it applies to any of the other ones, Dual-Matic, Cutlass, any kind of hub, All-State, whatever kind of hub you're going to put on. I will show you the correct way to do it, and so keep watching the videos for that. But right now, today, I have to get everything apart, see what's going on with that pinion, and pull the axles out and do all that stuff, and I'll show you what I find as I find it. Okay guys, I'm tearing into this CJ2A front axle, and as you can see, if we got the camera good, every tooth has been damaged. This is due to an incorrect setup. Somebody went in there and didn't set it up correctly, and it just chewed all the teeth up. Every single tooth is broken, and the pinion's a mess, and all the goo is in. That's all ground up teeth right there. The whole inside of this guy is a mess. So I'm going to work on taking the axles out and see what kind of disaster we have in the knuckles. We know that the ring and pinion's bad, and I don't know how the spider gears are. They're probably all messed up too with all that slop and gears and stuff running around in there. But this is what happens if you don't set it up correctly. You don't know what you're doing. You don't get it the pinion depth set right. It'll just eat up the ring gear like that.
Brian, isn't it true that even if you've got the original manuals for these vehicles, that they really don't go into the necessary detail on how to set these up? Isn't that right?
The manual gives you just enough information to get yourself in trouble. So, this is why I see this all the time. I got my buddy there, Gary, doing the filming and the talking, and we're finding a whole bunch of junk in this axle. I wasn't expecting it in the front axle, but here we are again. So, what I can say is stay away from front ends and ring gear setups if you're not exactly sure what you're doing, because this is what's going to happen. And it's bad because the next guy's paying the price on this. He bought this Jeep, and I don't believe he was expecting anything like this, but here we are. I'm going to continue on and see how deep the problems go, and I'll film it along the way. Okay guys, did a little more investigation, and after scraping off some gasket material, I found a number 6 right there, and I found a number 6 right there, and the bottom of the 6s on both of them are right here, so those are in line. And I came over to the other side, and I found a 6 over here. There's the bottom right here, and this cap was put on backwards. This 6 is right here. So to make this right, that 6 has to go right there. Now when I take out the pinion and stuff, I'm going to check the shim pack, but I believe by putting this one in backwards, they stressed that bearing and twisted the carrier enough to cause some of this damage. So like I was showing you yesterday about getting these caps right, if you don't have any idea if they're right, or you don't know what's happening, it kind of puts you in a bad spot, unless you could jig this up and line board again, but then your bearings and stuff wouldn't fit. So you'd have to go in there with an indicator and try and switch your caps around and make sure they're right. This one was not right. Switched around now like this, it is right. These had very little torque on them. Again, somebody was in here, I don't know what they were doing. They pulled the caps, did not put them back right. We have a disaster on our hands. So that's where I'm at. I'm going to pull the axles next, then we'll get the ring and pinion out. Okay guys, I got this, the left side knuckle off, and you remember we had no threads on the end of that, and it was shucking in and out. I'm going to try and get out of the way of the camera. So when this moves in and out like that, which it was doing because we have no threads on there, this is a Bendix joint, you know, in case you guys are wondering. It's got the balls in there. And this needs to be set at a predetermined place, and you do that with the shims and stuff. So when it's rotating, it's always in the center, it's in the right place. If you have slop like this in it, which is what happens when you put hubs on and you cut your threads off, these will fail almost immediately. It's just going to shuck in and out like that, and eventually you're gonna pop a ball out or break an ear off.
And there's no way of shimming that once the threads are cut?
Once the threads are off, you could shim it, but it won't do anything unless you could draw that out with the nut. So with no threads on it, you're in a tough spot. Can you see that, Gary?
Yeah.
Okay, this is original CJ2A spindle. The spindle bushing is inside there, and that's meant to be shimmed. It does not have a flange on it. You're only going to find that on the CJ2A. It's going to be just a smooth bushing in there, no flange. That means the axle was supposed to be shimmed, which these axles were shimmed. One had threads on it, and somebody cut the threads off of this one. They might have been thinking of putting hubs on. So this side would have failed, you know, fairly quickly with that moving in and out. When we put the hubs on, and I'll show you when I actually put the hubs on, I'm going to pop that out and I'll put a flange bushing in, show you what I'm going to do with the axles. But this is a no-no. You don't want this to be moving back and forth like that, because it will fail, and so many guys have trouble with those. Don't cut your threads off to put hubs on. It's just a wrong way to go. The right side on this had the threads, this side did not, so I'm going to go on the other side now and see what I find. But there really isn't any good way to use this axle now. It doesn't have a snap ring groove on the end to hold it in for later Jeep styles. So not much we can really do with that axle. So I'm going to get set up on the other side and look for that axle, see what's going on there. Okay, here is the spindle off the right side, and you can see there was a disastrous problem in here. Something went wrong. Really chewed it up. There's nothing in the center here. You got a bearing out here and a bearing out here, but it did get into where the back bearing goes, and it looks like somebody went at that with a belt sander or something, and the diameter is now not the right size. Somebody sanded the hell out of that. So we got a bad spindle. So at this point, I don't know, I think it might be better to find another 25. Anybody else?